hopefully you can all now hear me. Let me just check. 1, 2. I don't know if I have sound today. Can anybody hear me out there? Microphone. 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I don't think I have sound at the moment. Give me a moment, folks. I'm going to disconnect this and reconnect in a moment while I figure out why I have no sound. Oh, you can hear me. Is that right? I'm being told I can be heard. Which I'm kind of confused about because I can't hear me and normally I can. That's the technology. I'm actually in my little studio. So basically I have oh, you can hear me now. So I'd forgotten to hit the 48 phantom power on my microphone's desk. So I basically obviously was quiet. So thank you very much for letting me know. So as I'm trying to get used to this Facebook Live thing, and obviously the fact that the end of the world for all performers at the moment, because you know what, we love doing stuff with audiences. It's part of who we are. You know, we're a bunch of egotistical, delightful people, but we actually like, you know, we're kind of like succubus. We need your energy to keep us going. So doing this weird thing on Facebook Live without people and trying not to just look at my own face, because basically it's the only thing I can see and, you know, might kind of keep me sane. It's always good fun, but it's kind of like I'm still getting used to this like lack of serious interaction. And I hope all my other performer friends are doing amazing out there. You know, I've been watching on Facebook live feeds and so many guys losing gigs and everything getting closed down. I mentioned in my last post, I'm up till August now. So I am basically free until August, sitting in my little padded cell, talking to myself, which is pretty much every day of my life anyway, when I'm not doing live performances. But I wanted to come on and kind of do another quick story today. And I was thinking about what I was going to do. And then I remembered I'd made a promise. I don't know how many of you know about the Cochrane Medieval Fair. It's a wonderful one-day event put on by the fabulous team, Andrea, all those guys at Cochrane Public Library. They are wonderful guys. Love them to bits. I'm going to miss them this year. But basically, we had the Cochrane Medieval Fair last year. It was fantastic. They always invite me to do storytelling, and it was a lovely day, and I got up on stage to do my stories. And of course, I decided to put it out as a challenge. You know, it was coming on later in the day, and I thought, well, what do I tell? So I put out a challenge, and of course, I know a lot of the guys that do the medieval reenactment, and a couple of the nights, and I've got a feeling one of them was an Ames boy, decided to challenge me to do a kid's story. Because, of course, they had never heard me do a proper kid's story. So I think they thought they were just being cheeky. So I threw it down at them and went for it. And I forced them to sit and listen. But what happened is, as I was telling this story, the sky got a little bit dark. And I remember somebody shouting at me and going, "Hey, Calum, I think you've got about 10 minutes to wrap up this story because something's blown in." And I look and I see these ominous dark clouds coming in towards me. And I'm thinking, okay, I can get this story wrapped up. I'll just speed it up and I'll improvise. I'll cut a few wee bits that, we can do without. And it was all going to be amazing. Unfortunately, 10 minutes was definitely overestimating. Within about a minute of that, all of a sudden, I believe some of the guys said it was what they call plough wind, or somebody suspected maybe a mini tornado had settled down somewhere, because all of a sudden the whole place just went crazy. Tents started flying through the air, sailing majestically into the heavens. There was screaming, there was weapons flying, there was knights rolling along the ground. It was just chaos and mayhem. And it was the weirdest experience. Rain pounding away. Basically half the Viking encampment got blown over. One of our tents, we had oh gosh, what was it? It was Can't remember the type now. It literally blew up. The wind hit it and just tore the thing apart. I've never seen anything like it. These things are made sturdy by an American company called Panther Primitives. And oh my God, like this thing just exploded. It was so like weird, but everything was in mayhem and it literally shut down the event. I've never, ever seen something like this happen. You know, all the guests, all the visitors, everyone was holding on for dear life onto tents to stop them blowing away. People were just splayed on the ground, holding equipment down to stop it vanishing into the heavens. It was so weird. But the biggest disaster of the day is I didn't get to finish my story. In the 8 years I've been doing storytelling, I have never, ever not finished a story. And I'll tell you, for weeks, I was racked with guilt and remorse and worry. I was like, oh, what a terrible thing to happen, you know. And it felt, you know, it was incomplete. It was terrible. People are messaging me here. Things are pinging and going off. It's I'm still getting used to all the interaction with this Facebook Live. But basically, it was just so weird to experience not finishing a story. So I told Cochrane Library I would record it live. And then, of course, other things happened. If you know, something to do with a savage battle, a heroic feat of daring where I tore my Achilles tendon, otherwise known as playing badminton. Yeah, that's why I don't do exercise anymore. It's more dangerous than just sitting in my studio. It really is. Anyway, the story I'm going to tell today is a kid's story. Don't be put off, though, because if you're an adult, because I think everybody needs stories, no matter what, whether you're an adult, whether you're a kid, all stories are meant for each other. But this is a fun wee story, and it's kind of my version of a story, which I originally heard well over 8 years ago by a gentleman called, oh my goodness, I've forgotten, Gerald Durkin. Gerald Durkin, wonderful storyteller from Glasgow. A really nice guy, one of the earlier storytellers that I heard. And of course, in the storytelling tradition, we kind of are always happy for people to tell our stories, you know, as long as we ask permission. So me and Jerry kind of had been chatting, and, you know, he was great. He was like, yeah, you can tell that. And of course, my version's evolved and changed, I think it has. It's been so long now, I can't remember what the original was like and what now my kind of rehash of it is. But anyway, it starts the same way. It starts in a field. And that field is surrounded by beautiful trees. And in that field is a rock. And by that rock is a wee pond. And on that pond, lily pads, there's flies buzzing above it, and there's a wee beastie, a special wee beastie. And he's got big eyes, he's got green skin, and a huge mouth. And again, generally when you look at them, they look like this. Now, I've just realised the problem with this story is I usually use the audience interaction, so I'm just going to have to go with it without audience. Or maybe I could go, oh, could it be a frog? Yes, it's a frog. I don't think I'll do that. That might just get confusing. It's a wee frog, or a puddock. In Scotland, we actually call them puddocks. And for the sake of this story, we're going to call this frog Bob. So here is Bob the frog, and he is sitting basically on his little rock, sunbathing, and he has a time in his life, you know, he eats flies, he swims in his pool, he sunbathes on his rock, and Bob the frog has the perfect life. But the thing about Bob is he's a very special frog. Bob's a dreamer. He loves the idea of seeing the world, of adventuring, of travelling far and wide, but he's just a wee frog. How's he going to do all that? So Bob just sits on his rock and eats his flies and swims in his pool and dreams his dreams. But one day, as he's sunbathing away, something hops up to the side of the pond and it starts to drink some water. And it's got big fluffy ears and a wee fluffy tail and a twitchy wee nose. And Bob looks at it and he goes, oh, What a bonny wee bunny rabbit that is. Oh, and look at the way it runs all over the field and jumps and hops. And Bob thinks to himself, oh, what an awfully fine wee creature. It would be so lovely to be a rabbit. That rabbit must see so many exciting things. And Bob sits on his rock and he's, oh, it would be so nice to be a rabbit. Oh, I wish I could be a rabbit. And then all of a sudden, there's a great puff of smoke. And all of a sudden, Bob the Frog is looking down at big white fluffy feet. He's feeling a twitchy wee nose, and he knows that there's two big pointy ears. And all of a sudden, Bob the Frog is no longer a frog. Bob the Frog is a beautiful bunny rabbit. And now Bob's having the time of his life, hopping all around the field. He's nibbling at grass. He's hopping, he's skipping, he's running. He's having the time of his life. And he heads away. He jumps and hops over the field. He heads into the forest, enjoying all the sights and sounds. Bob the Frog is having the time of his life as a rabbit until, after a few days travelling, he comes across a river. Oh, and it's a beautiful river. It's all shiny and silvery in the light. And Bob is loving it. But there's no way across. And poor Bob's sitting there thinking, is this it? Is this the end of my adventures? Well, just at that moment, as Bob's looking up and down the river, something jumps out of the water, all silvery and sleek and beautiful. It spins in the air and splashes down. And Bob looks at it and he thinks, oh, look at that beautiful salmon. Is that not the most amazing thing? Oh, that salmon gets to swim up and down this river, enjoying himself, having the time of his life. And then Bob thinks to himself, oh, wait a minute. I was once a frog and now I'm a rabbit. Oh, I wonder if it will happen again. So he closes his eyes and he clenches his little paws. And Bob goes, I wish I was a salmon. And all of a sudden, there's a great puff of smoke. And Bob is now a beautiful, majestic salmon swimming up and down the river, having the time of his life. And for days, he swims about, meeting all the other fish, saying hello, until eventually the river widens and widens and widens until Bob is now out in the ocean. And what an exciting place. There's all types of fish and beasties swimming about, and Bob is having a great time. Well, I say he's having a great time. Until, of course, the biggest fish in the ocean appears. Because you see, in the river, Bob was pretty much the biggest fish, but now he's out in the big water. There's a problem. There's meaner, nastier fish out there, and those ones have like big fins and they have pointy, jaggy teeth, and they generally eat anything that they can see. And of course, Bob is terrified every time a shark swims by. Him and his fishy friends have to go and hide. Well, Bob eventually gets fed up with this. He can't be done with this idea of nearly getting eaten every day. And then he thinks back on his life when he was a frog and then he was a rabbit and now he's a salmon. And he thinks to himself, maybe, just maybe it'll work again. So he closes his little fishy eyes and clenches his little fishy fins. Who knows? And he says again, I wish I was a shark. And there's a great puff of smoke. And please don't, in the comments, comment about how could there be a puff of smoke underwater. Just go with it. It's a kid's story. There's a great puff of smoke. And all of a sudden, there's Bob. He's no longer a salmon. He is a great shark. He's not just any shark. He is the king of all sharks, the great white. He is swimming through the oceans, traveling the seas, loving life. I mean, this is it. This is the pinnacle that Bob feels he can get to. He is now the biggest, meanest, pointiest, toothiest shark on the planet, and he is loving it. And there's a treat, because you see, Bob very quickly works out that the sea gives you free food every so often, because sometimes across the top of the ocean, a big wooden thing flees across the surface, and every so often a bit of wood comes out the side, and then all of a sudden a wee kind of two-legged, two-armed thing falls into the water. And of course, Bob's thinking, I'm no passing up that. And he swims up and munches it down. It's like the McDonald's of the ocean. And Bob is loving it. He is thinking this is the greatest thing. So every time he sees one of them on the surface, he swims behind it waiting for his afternoon snack. Now, as time goes by, Bob's curiosity gets the better of him, because he's thinking, what is that big thing up there? And what is it they're throwing into the water? He thinks, I would love to see what's going on. And he thinks long and hard. And he goes, well, maybe it'll work one more time. You know, I was a frog, then I was a rabbit, then I was a salmon, now I'm a great white shark. Maybe, just maybe. So he closes his eyes, and feel free at home, ladies and gents, boys and girls, you know, close your eyes, clench your fins, just go with it, and say the words, I wish I was a... Oh, and then Bob realizes that he has no idea what they're actually called. So he just says, two-legged, two-armed thing. And all of a sudden, there's a puff of smoke. And there is Bob now on deck, on the ship. He is now looking around him, and it's no ordinary ship. Oh no, not for a story such as this, folks. It is none other than a pirate ship. And now Bob the Frog is a pirate sailing the seven seas, sword fighting, shooting cannons, burying gold, having the time of his life, drinking milk. A lot of milk, that's what pirates drink. Having a great time, and Bob is loving it. This is fantastic, seeing new worlds, seeing new sights, and Bob loves it. And life as a pirate is a pretty fun thing if you ignore people trying to stab you and shoot at you and arrest you and other things. But there is actually another problem for poor Bob, because his captain, the pirate captain he's under, isn't he really a nice guy? You know, he likes to shout and roar and bellow at his crew. He likes to force them to polish the brass and mop the decks, and he's a bit mean and nasty to them, doesn't feed them enough. And Bob, eventually, he has enough of this. He's like, oh, this isn't fun. I thought being one of these things would be amazing, but being a pirate's no that fun. And then he thinks about it. He was a frog. Then he was a rabbit. Then he was a salmon. Then he was a shark. Now he's a pirate. Maybe it'll work again. So he closes his eyes and he clenches his fists and he says, I wish I was a pirate captain. And there's a ginormous puff of smoke, and there he is. Handsome, majestic. Bob the Frog is now Bob the pirate captain. And what a pirate captain he is, sailing the seven seas, dishing out wealth and glory to his crew. And because he's such a good pirate captain, other ships start to join him. And all of a sudden, Bob, the pirate captain, has an armada behind him. And in no time at all, he is crowned Bob, the Pirate King of the Oceans. And the dreams of a wee frog. Now he is a pirate king, sailing the seven seas, drinking milk, shooting cannons, sword fights. He is having the time of his life. And never a finer time could he have. But as the years creep by, something starts to happen to Bob. You know, he's surrounded by his wonderful crew. He's happy, he's wealthy, he's got everything he ever wanted, but in here, something's missing. And he realises after a while that if he's got no one to really share it with, what's the point? Bob wants love. He needs a pirate queen. So Bob decides, I've got to have a pirate queen. I need to have somebody to spend my life with. This is going to be great. So he sends his men far and wide looking for a suitable pirate queen for himself. But day after day, they come back and say, "Oh, that one's married. Oh, that one's taken. Oh, that one's got shot by a cannon." And Bob quickly realizes that there doesn't appear to be any pirate queens left. But then one day, one of his men come back and they're like, "I've found a pirate queen, but there's a problem." And Bob's like, no, just tell me anything. He says, "Well, I found her, but her boat is in a cove and everyone's asleep and I can't wake anyone up." And Bob thinks to himself, well, that's not maybe suitable. But he thinks, okay, let's go and find out. Let's sail there and we'll see what we can find out. So they sail to the cove and he climbs on board, and sure enough, all the crew are sound asleep. They're covered in a layer of dust. And Bob goes below deck and he searches, and there he finds her lying serenely on the bed. Oh, and she is the bonniest creature he has ever set eyes on. And Bob looks at this beautiful queen and he thinks, oh, she's perfect. So he goes up to her. Hello, it's Pirate King Bob. Could you wake up, please? Nothing. He gives her a wee shake. Excuse me, Pirate King Bob. Nothing. He starts giving her, hey, wake up, it's Pirate King Bob. Nothing. Oh, and poor Bob now just feels terrible. He feels awful. And he thinks to himself, well, what am I going to do? Because I can't, spend my life with someone who's sound asleep. And then he remembers something. He remembers a book he once read. And in that book, he remembers a princess was asleep. And he thinks long and hard, what did they do? Oh my goodness. She was given a kiss and she woke up. And Bob thinks, well, it's not very appropriate, but we'll give it a go. So, he does the right thing. He licks his lips and puckers up and bends over and gives her the most gentlest kiss on her lips. And all of a sudden, there's a huge puff of smoke. And there is Bob, the Pirate King, sitting on the pillow next to the Pirate Queen. And he is a frog again. And he's a bit panicked. What's he going to do? He's looking around. What's going on? And all of a sudden, the Pirate Queen starts to stretch and move and yawn. And she starts to wake up. And Bob is now going, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And she sits bolt upright, realizing that somebody has saved her. Has the handsome pirate come to save her? And she looks around and there's no one here. She's a bit confused until she turns round and she's like, oh. And she stares down at this. As Bob the Frog can do nothing but stare at her. And she's looking at this wee frog and thinking long and hard, and then it comes to her. She read a book once. And in that book there was a wee frog. And what was it again? That's right, the princess kissed the frog and he became a handsome prince. And she thinks, this must be my handsome pirate or whatever. Oh, I know what to do. So she looks down at this wee frog and she licks her lips and she puckers her lip and she bends over to kiss it, and then she closes her eyes. Because in all good stories, ladies are supposed to close their eyes when they kiss. So she starts to go down to kiss the frog, and then a thought crosses her mind. What if the frog turns round when her eyes are closed? Because that's certainly a place no one ever wants to kiss. So she checks, oh no, still the right way, and she bends over and she gives a gentle kiss on the frog. And there's a huge puff of smoke. And now Bob the Frog is looking at another frog. The Pirate Queen and the Pirate King, as frogs, stare at each other and wonder what they're going to do. And they hear all over the ship everyone waking up, and they realise, well, there's only one thing they can do. They hop off the bed. They hop up the stairs onto the main deck. On the main deck, they jump into the water. They swim through the water onto the beach. They hop up the beach into the forest, and for a few days they travel through the forest until eventually they find a beautiful field. And in that field, there's a rock. And beside that rock is a beautiful pond. And on that pond are lily pads and flies swarming above it. And Bob the Frog and the Pirate Queen Frog live happily ever after. And that is Bob the Frog. It's been a while since I've told that one, and it's really difficult to tell that one without an audience to interact with. But that is dedicated to the Cochrane Public Library. Finally finishing it for you, and for those knights, those wonderfully devilish knights who challenged me on that day to tell a kid's story. So thank you for those that have joined me today. If anyone did hang about and join me, I see a few comments. Thank you. Oh, Helga from Germany. Hello, darling. How are you? So thank you very much for joining me. I'm going to keep trying to do these because, to be honest, you know, I've got to keep telling stories or I'm going to go insane. And I have no idea how it's going to be when I get back to live audiences. I have never had stage fright or an issue with that, and I'm hoping that never changes. But anyway, folks, have a lovely Saturday. I may come on later. It depends how bored I am because, geez, being stuck in a house doing nothing. I mean, I'm used to it. You know, you can't see, but I'm in a padded cell. So this is normal for me. But, you know, I usually have a bit more interaction with the world. So thank you very much, folks, and have a lovely day.